week in racing. It's time to recap it. And who better to do it than Michael and Magic? Two bros/pros who cover the highs and lows of racing around the globe on every one of the shows. Real fans look forward to these guys and their last thoughts, cause they know they're not talking out of their royal ascot. What they say makes sense. So ladies and gents, sit back and relax as Blinkers Off presents The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Magic Mike Show, episode 403. What we learned all about Saratoga this Saturday, and I'm shocked, to be honest. You guys, you'll notice Magic not here with us today. If you told me either Magic or Aaron was going to be sick today, I would have 100% said Aaron, who was at Saratoga, and I'm guessing is dragging a little bit. How's it going, buddy?
That's right. I am a little tired. I'm not going to lie to everybody, but yeah, I did want to come on today. I did not kick Magic off. He is actually sick. I was going to be all three of us, but yeah, I am dragging without any doubt. You got home a little late yesterday, and we definitely had some fun throughout the weekend, I should say. So no, I'm happy. Listen, I had an epic time, and so it's time, man. I'm ready to be on Magic Mike and talk about it.
Yeah, I love it. We have obviously a huge racing weekend from Saratoga, a couple features over at Del Mar too, which we might address if we've got the time. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about the sprint because obviously Speaker's Corner going down. Pretty big story out there at Del Mar. But there's only one logical place to start, right? We got to talk a little Travers before we go anywhere else. Epicenter, man. I mean, I want to talk about every horse in this field, but Epicenter right off the bat. What a race. I mean, I got to give props to Joel Rosario, who I have taken shots at consistently on this show for some of his rides. He was aggressive, got Epicenter forwardly placed, sat the rail around that first turn, and it was pretty much over after that. Once Epicenter got loose, he was clearly much the best here.
First of all, props to you for being a host and getting right to it. I love it. I love it. There's no chit-chat going on. Let's get right to the main event and to the star of the whole week, and that was Epicenter. And you're right. Right from the beginning, I looked over at Jared and I said, boy, if you could have just placed him in a spot, you couldn't have placed him more perfectly where he was. He was in a great spot to start. You felt very good from the very beginning. And yeah, it was just race over at the top of the stretch. Again, I looked right at Jared at the top of the stretch. I said, is this over? And he's like, it's way over. There's nobody catching him. And he just does it without even really exerting much effort, I thought.
No, it was very, very impressive. We'll see if we can get this to be a little less choppy for everybody out there. It was very, very impressive here. And one of the big keys was the fact that early voting doesn't break very well. You can see here he's sitting 4 wide going into that first turn. I think we all thought early voting was going to get the lead. Clearly did not, and that kind of changed the overall tactics of the race. You get to see Epicenter here sit on the rail. And like you said, I mean, he just never looked like a loser once he got going. You had 3 horses chasing him in Cyberknife and Zandon and in Rich Strike, all of which I thought ran very well. Rich Strike especially, I thought ran a phenomenal race. What did you think of the 2nd through 4th place finishers here?
Yeah, I really agree with you. I thought Cyberknife did a nice job. I kind of thought there was a chance he could be on the lead with early voting, and we just didn't know how he would show up, and he didn't show up at all. And so Cyberknife drawing the rail, got the lead, held on for second. Ain't Life Grand was able to press him. I'll talk about that in a second. I'll save that little nugget, but don't know why that was happening, but Cyberknife still holds on. Zandon does what Zandon does, right? And you're right. Give credit to Rich Strike. I think on Twitter, a lot of people want to say he validated it and he's a great horse. And then others are wanting to say, no, he's still terrible. I think the answer is he's somewhere in the middle. And I think people hate that because I think that we live in a society or a world now where it has to be black or white. It's really a gray area with him. He fired, right? He ran better than I thought he would.
Well, I completely agree with you. He ran better than I thought he would. And I'm not going to say it validates the Derby, but it definitely doesn't make that as ridiculous of an outlier as it was prior to this race. And that means that, this race is in him, and he's clearly improved since we saw him in the Belmont. So I'm probably never betting Rich Strike because I don't think I'll ever get the price I want on him. But for the people who like Rich Strike, I thought this was a good day for you. I thought 4th in the Travers was hard fought. It was interesting to see that he stopped his momentum too once he left the rail. If he had stayed on the rail, he may have ended up running second in this race because that horse just does not want to be anywhere but on that line.
It's interesting you say that because why did they take him off the rail? I'm not really sure why they did.
I don't know. He tries to go wide right here. You can see Sonny Leon kind of tips him off. And it seems like if he had just stayed on the rail, I think he probably runs second. But you can tell he does not like being off. He starts lugging in immediately. And it's not the spot on the racetrack the horse wants to be. And you heard his trainer talk about it after the Belmont, that he hadn't really learned to get off the rail yet. And it looks like he still needs to work on that.
Yeah, again, you're right. It looked like he had pretty good momentum. The rail was dead at Saratoga again this weekend, but it did kind of feel like he had good momentum going. I don't think I would have taken him off of there. And like I said, Zandon ends up passing him here in the stretch, and then they couldn't ever get to Cyberknife, which is still kind of telling you, yeah, they're not, those two behind Cyberknife are not great. They probably should have gotten to him if they were great, but still, it was a solid effort. And like I said, you saw the gallop there for Epicenter. It's just like, he stopped the clock in 2 minutes, 0.72. And it's like, yeah, he didn't, like, Rosario was standing straight up on him. And it was a classic Mike Somich line. It was a don't fall off ride for Rosario, right? Just, I mean, we were talking after the race. It's like, big back-to-back wins there for Rosario. And I said, well, to be fair, Mike Somich could have rode Epicenter. I could have rode Epicenter. Jared Welch could have rode Epicenter. Anybody could have probably would have won that race.
He would have been overweight if I was on him. Maybe if you cut me in half, I would have been able to get him home underweight. But it was a very impressive race there from Epicenter. I thought he was phenomenal. Let's talk about the overall picture here now. Breeders' Cup Classic. Epicenter's planning on going there. Cyberknife sounds like he's going to the mile, but the Classic is still something that he's going to consider. What do you think about Zandon's chances in the Breeders' Cup Classic? I'm sorry, what do you think about Epicenter's chances at the Breeders' Cup Classic?
Good chance. I think after this, I think, if you would have told me that last week, I wouldn't have agreed. But, we're very close with the connections at 8 Life Grand, right? And we were talking the night before, and they said, look, out of all these horses, the one that could really step up and run a better race than what he's been doing is Epicenter. He said he ran a better race than we've ever seen him before in the Jim Dandy. They've been watching him locally training, and they're like, he is training like a monster. Asmussen's pretty high on him coming into this race, and he did it. He jumped up, right? Now, there's debate about just how much he jumped up, but look, you have eyes if you're watching this. Forget about the numbers for a second. He jumped up. He ran a lot better. Visually, that was about as impressive as you could get, and it was at the distance of the Classic. So all of a sudden, we've kind of been saying, well, Flatline, Life is Good. They're kind of a little bit ahead of everybody else. Epicenter's in the mix now, at least. Can he beat him? I'm not sure, but he's in the mix.
Well, it was second off a layoff. We saw him come back in the Jim Dandy after he'd run in the Preakness, so I got a nice little break there. I thought Asmussen has handled this horse wonderfully, kept him at the track quite a bit, but still handled him really well here in the later part of the year. Plan now is to train up to the Classic, so it looks like it's just going to go right from Travers to the Breeders' Cup Classic. The third start off the layoff, that's a target start for a lot of trainers. You think he's got a shot at taking another step forward. But coming out of this, one of the big things was the numbers that came back from this day. And I'm excited to talk about this because from a bet back scenario, I think this is going to be one of the more interesting days. It's either going to prove to be very, very good or very, very bad. And we'll touch on this on every single dirt stakes race because every single one of the dirt stakes races, you had some funky numbers come back. Now, before I flip over, out of these 8 horses that ran, how many of the 8 set a career high buyer on Saturday?
Top 4, I would say 5. Artorias may not have. I would say the top 5 for sure did.
Your top 7 finishers set a new high buyer. The only horse who did not was early voting. From a time form perspective, how many horses? Oh, that's not wonderful. From a time form perspective, how many horses set a new career best time form number in the Travers?
I know Epicenter did. I think the top 3 or 4, I'll say 4.
6 of the 8 set a new time form career high. So you have so is this race overrated from a numbers perspective is the first question that comes to mind. If you have 7 of 8 horses and early voting, the only one from a buyer perspective.
It's not ideal. You kind of froze there. It's not ideal. I think the question was, were the numbers overrated numbers? It's not ideal. It's not at all because it just seems a little out of reach, right? And I mean, Epicenter is a performance you could believe, but then when you see the other numbers, it's like something's off here, right? Something's not right in this situation. Cyberknife, I don't think ran a better race in the Travers than he ran in the Haskell, let's say, just to start with.
Yeah, and here you can see the numbers head-to-head. Epicenter, 10 buyer points over his career high. Cyberknife improves by 3. Zandon, 5 points over his career high. Rich Strike, 4 points over his Kentucky Derby win. Gilded Age, 10 points over his career high. Arturius improves by 3 points. I mean, it's just, you look at this and you're like, wait a second. How can that possibly be that much of a jump for some of these horses, specifically like Gilded Age, who ends up running 5th in this race and jumps up that much? A Rich Strike higher than the Derby number. It makes me very concerned about using these numbers as solid data points out of this race if you have all of these horses doing well, because clearly it feels like it got inflated because Epicenter ran so well.
Well, and exactly. And it's interesting. You even take a horse like 8 Life Grand, he ran a 96 buyer. I mean, and it's like he finished terribly slow, let's be honest. But it's just like, how could he have ran a 96 buyer in that spot? That did not look like a horse that earned a buyer that's almost triple digits. And I even think his trainer would tell you that. So it is really interesting. Gilded Age improves 10 points just out of nowhere, so Arturius wins the Curlin under wraps and then gets a higher buyer for being nowhere in this race. I mean, yeah, the competition certainly stepped up for all those horses that I'm talking about, but it's not to that degree. Absolutely not.
No, and so this is something where a lot of these dirt races, and you're gonna see this is a theme as we go through the dirt races today. A lot of these dirt races, I'm specifically going to be not playing most of these horses back, I bet, because I think they're all going to get bet off these inflated numbers. It's the same thing on the time form side.
Yeah, the time forms weren't as inflated, but they still were higher than what you thought they would be compared to where they had ran before. Yep. I think the buyers were outlandish, right? As soon as we got home, it's like, oh, Cody's Wish ran a 112. I probably spoiled something there. And it's like, come on, there's no way that happened, right? But yeah, and again, it's part of it is a victim of how well Epicenter ran. And if you're going to set his buyer to where they set it, all these other horses have to improve dramatically, because even though he beat him easily, he was still, what was he, like 4 lengths ahead of him. So that's where that comes into play. And so if you're going to set his ultra high, you're going to have to set them all ultra high. And that's what you're seeing here.
Yeah, and even for Epicenter, I mean, that's a sizable jump from one race to the other. Part of making buyers is tough. Obviously, a lot of it goes into how fast they come home, the distance of the race compared to that same distance at the same age level in past races. And so you're going to see big numbers when you have an impressive performance like this. But it just seems like it's kind of wildly inflated. All right, Rich Strike. What do you think the plan is for Rich Strike moving forward here? Do we see him in the Classic?
I think you will. I mean, I don't really know why you wouldn't. I think a mile and a quarter, he's proven that's probably his distance. That's his 2 best races have been there. I think you'll see him. I don't think they should apologize for doing it, because he was a Derby winner. And like I said, he didn't embarrass himself here. He nearly got second. Maybe if they keep him on the rail, he gets up there for second and everybody's really high on him. I'm with you. I'm never going to bet this horse. I think he's extremely pace dependent, but he made a run at least. And that's what you wanted to see. If you're a fan of Rich Strike, you have to be happy. He made a nice, solid run. He wasn't embarrassing. He beat half the field. So I think they'll go to the Classic with him. Yeah.
I got to agree with Shotty here. Zandon likes 3rd place. Zandon kind of reminds me of Hot Rod Charlie at this point, where this horse kind of consistently likes to run 2nd or 3rd. Not good enough to beat the best in the group, but clearly good enough to consistently hit the board. Just kind of one of these every year. It feels like Zandon's this year's horse that just likes hitting the board.
Yeah, he's proven it over and over. I was talking with a lot of people that we met, and one individual that we met was 12-year-old Jalen, who actually it's his 13th birthday today. So happy birthday to Jalen. But he said, look, anybody that's betting this horse to win is crazy. And his dad was betting him to win, by the way. He's like, he had no excuse to lose the Kentucky Derby. None.
No.
Like, he turned for home, and it's like, oh, he's going to win easy. And even like 200 yards out, he's like, well, he's still going to get by. And then they distance from him in the end. It's like, that's what he does. He's a hanger. And again, in this spot, I think what they did, they just took him back and said, maybe let's make one run with him. You know what happened? He got up there to 3rd, and that was it. Even in this spot, take out Epicenter. Nobody was beating him. How does he not get by Cyberknife for 2nd? Like, pretend Epicenter's not in the race, he would hang again and get 2nd.
You're dead on. And that to me was the crazy part about this. You don't get past Cyberknife, who clearly was kind of giving it up a little bit, even after you rallied to the inside of Rich Strike. You just couldn't get up for 2nd. So it's just another example of a horse you probably don't want to be betting to win. But
nope.
Hot Rod Charlie, finished 3rd or 4th last year in the Breeders' Cup Classic? I wouldn't be shocked if Zandon's in that 3rd or 4th spot in the Super or the Tri this year in the Breeders' Cup Classic. We got quite a people that are commenting in the chat here, specifically talking about that classic and the matchup with Life is Good and Flightline. Chris talking about the two of them setting the pace and Red Strike trying to pull the upset. You're going to get a nice trip from Epicenter, especially if Rosario keeps him closer. This is one of the more wide open Breeders' Cup Classics we have going into it because there are three really good horses right now.
Well, I think the key to the Breeders' Cup Classic is going to happen this weekend with Flightline. If he runs a dominant 1.25 mile race, may not be that wide open. If he doesn't, or if he can't stay sound enough to run in it, I think both are possible for sure. Maybe the second one, very possible. Then you're right. It becomes wide open because now what we have, you're starting to get some contenders from those underneath type of horses you thought originally, like an Epicenter, that are starting to really step up. Then you got Life is Good and the question of the, 1.25 mile, can he get it? All of a sudden, if Flightline's not there, it becomes a kind of a wide open thing. So I think the key to the Classic is going to be this weekend at Del Mar, and we'll kind of go on from there. But at least, like you said, even if he rolls, at least Epicenter puts a little bit more of an option out there for people.
It's kind of crazy that after the Travers, I would say the most the horse with the least chinks in its armor really is Epicenter at this point. You have question marks around Flightline. You have question marks around Life is Good. That Epicenter performance leaves absolutely no question whether or not he can get the distance, whether or not he can handle a quicker pace. Everything for Epicenter is a go here. Real quick, before we jump over to the Sword Dancer, Epicenter, 3-year-old of the year. Any way to beat him now?
Probably not, unless he's just nowhere to be found and like a 3-year-old wins the Classic out of surprise. Like some people are saying, like talking about Cyberknife, and I thought he did run a pretty good race. And if Ain't Life Grand, that was not the strategy, by the way, to go to the lead. If he doesn't bother him, that might be a horse race down the stretch, right? I mean, I still think he would have gotten beat. But anyway, let's forget about that. And you fast forward to if he gets a trip like that and nobody's around, maybe he can pull off an upset. But still, to answer the question, it's going to take a 3-year-old to win the Classic, or Epicenter's going to get there. I guess the one caveat is Jack Christopher, but we could get to that in a second. I don't want to go into him right now.
All right, we'll jump ahead one race real quick. We'll take a look here at the Sword Dancer, the 10th from Saratoga, and this one featured a horse you finally got at a decent price here, 4-1 on your eventual winner, Gufo. First time. This is the second longest he's gone off in his career after being a short price, a sub 2-1 the last 5 or 6 races. What do you think of Gufo's performance here in the Sword Dancer? Were you surprised he was able to finally get it done?
I was not. Listen, I love Gufo, so I'm not going to say I was surprised. But the big thing is he just loves Saratoga, I guess. He loves his 3-turn race. That's the whole key to the whole thing. He just loves going 3 turns at Saratoga. It's crazy. And, like, he's in the stretch, and I'm like, well, there's one horse closing, or Mirror Mission's going to win this thing. And it's like, oh, it's Gufo. Holy hell. And here he came. So I don't know what to make of him moving forward. Like, I'm not sure if we go, okay, well, now he's back. And it's like he likes Saratoga and he likes that race setup.
Yeah, I think that the 12 furlongs, 3 turns at Saratoga is really what hit him right between the eyes. And phenomenal race from Mirror Mission, who you mentioned, who was right there. Soldiers Rising came calling late, not quite able to get it done. Broome had issues at the break. And Broome was your favorite. I think we all thought highly of Broome coming into this. Obviously, he was impressive running in the Breeders' Cup Turf last year. What do you think of Broome's trip? Do you think it was the break that cost him the race?
It's hard to say, right? We don't really know how he was going to run because he never really got his chance that he wanted. He never really got any kind of a fair shot. So hard to say. I think it was a situation where, gosh, if a favorite was going to lose, or that was going to be a big one, that was going to be the one to maybe look at, and that's how it happened. But these European horses, we've had some success at Saratoga, but at Belmont they weren't very good, and the last couple of times here they haven't been good. So it just didn't break well, and just once that happened, he just didn't have any chance to run his race. And so I don't really know how he was going to run, to be honest. He was never involved, really.
Yeah, you can see him here first turn. He's kind of on the rail all the way second to last. Not a great spot. Soldiers Rising, the horse that was sitting in last. Tribhuvan, 11-1 this time after being a short price, coming out of the United Nations. It was on the lead, quit there, got everything his own way. What do you do with Tribhuvan moving forward? Because now you've seen him loose on the lead 3 straight races. One of the 3, he gets the job done. The other 2, he just collapses down the lane. Didn't really have an excuse in either of the spots either.
I have no idea what you do with him. It's weird because in this race, when he turned for home, I thought, oh man, he's kind of gotten that Belmont trip, right? And it's like, oh shit, we may be in big trouble because we didn't have him in the double. And it's just like he just gave it up. So I don't know. Maybe that race there, Belmont, the Man of War, that's his race, and maybe he's just like Gufo, just run him there, get him ready for that race every year, and he might win it. Like I said, we're watching this live on the screen now. He went to almost a 50 or 49 half, and nobody's around him. So I was worried. I don't know what you do with him. I think you just kind of keep throwing him out there in those races and hope he fires with that big one and gets a win.
You demand value, right? I mean, I wouldn't have talked you off him at 11-1 here. 2-1 was tough in the United Nations, especially with that setup for him to fall apart. 11-1 here, you feel like you got a little bit more value. And I'm with you. They went 114 to 6 furlongs. Man, when they went 114 to 6 furlongs, it really felt like he could just end up wiring this field. And you got Channel Maker sitting there in second. No one sub 10-1 in your top four, so you don't really expect anyone to make a huge move. Now, Mirror Mission, obviously, I mentioned it, ran his heart out here, makes a 3-wide move around this second turn. At this point, when Magic was in the live stream with me, he's like, oh, Mirror Mission's got a shot because Magic picked Mirror Mission in a couple of places here. So pretty impressed with that selection of his. And you can see Mirror Mission rolling here. It looked like he was going to get the job done for a second here.
So this is a huge heartbreak for the guide article because we had a double, a $10 double, and Mirror Mission was in it. And his will pay was $560 to Epicenter. Gufo was 102 or 5, I think it was. And that's for a $10, not a $1. And yeah, we thought we had it. Now, obviously we had Gufo in the double, so it is what it is. But yeah, we thought we had Mirror Mission home, and that, like I said, a $500 difference. Big kind of a heartbreak there for us. But no, I mean, he ran great. It's just Gufo, man, once he got going, they just weren't gonna keep him from winning that one.
So what are Gufo's off odds in the Breeders' Cup turf now?
Too low, right? I mean, he's too
part?
low. I don't think he's got a shot really, but he's probably going to be sub 10-1, and he should not be.
Yeah, no, I agree. You're going to see a lower price on Gufo. Like I mentioned, he consistently gets bet. If you go back and you look at the previous races for Gufo, he was 8-1 last year in the Breeders' Cup turf. Outside of that, never been over 4-1 in 2020, 21, or 22. So this was the highest price you've gotten him in 3 years outside of the Breeders' Cup turf last year. You're probably going to get somewhere around that low 10-1, high, like single-digit odds, somewhere in that 7, 8, 9-1 range. He's just a tough bet coming from way back of the field, especially when you're stacked with Europeans in that spot.
He'll beat me he's going to beat me anyway if he wins. I'm not going to play him in that race. But yeah, I mean, you just can't take him.
And what do you do with Broom, who's probably going to go to the turf here as well? Is this? Do you want to see him once more of American turf, or you're willing to play him back? Because he's going to get bet as well. It was 21 morning line last year. I think he went off around 12-1 or so. He's going to take some money again.
If he wins, he beats me. I don't care for him in that spot as well. I mean, you say that now, a lot could change between now and November, but it just seems to be if a European's going to win that race, it's probably not going to be Broom. Somebody else will probably come over here that's got a little bit better chance than he does, I would say.
And we did see this. Chris mentioned it. We got domestic spending back on the work tab today for Chad Brown. So that's another one that would be interesting to see where he ends up. I would be surprised if he's ready for the turf, since today is the first time he's worked in almost a year, right?
First time in almost a year. I would be wildly interested wherever he shows up. I like that. It's not going to be the Breeders' Cup, but that horse can really run. We'll see. If you remember, what a disheartening way to kind of for him to disappear. He lost that race at Arlington as a huge favorite, and then we never got to see him again. I'm very excited that he's back in the work tab. Hopefully he can stay healthy. That's the big thing.
And real quick, just for reference's sake, let's take a look at the buyers this race and then previous races so you can see the difference from the turf to the dirt. Gufo runs a 104, ties a career best. Mirror Mission 103, but it has been improving, so not surprising there. Soldier Rising gets a 103, an improving 4-year-old. Everyone else doesn't match their career buyer or drops a little bit here. So you can see the top three kind of take steps forward, and everyone behind them, the buyers fit. These all make sense. That's kind of the point on what I'm trying to point out here.
Yeah, exactly. You might see a jump up by a point or two. Huge difference between 1 point and 10.
Yes, especially when you're finishing sixth.
Yes.
All right, let's head one race earlier here. We're going to go to the personal ensign. This one I thought was wildly interesting as well. You have Latruska, Search Results, Clariere, Crazy Beautiful, and Malathaat. Probably 5 of the 6 best fillies in the country right now, banging heads. We'll pull the replay up here real quick. What'd you think of this year's personal ensign, and how frustrating is
Hated
Malathaat?
everything about it. Hated every moment of this race. Yeah, it was the low light of the weekend without any doubt. Wanted to throw up pretty much the whole race. Could see what was going to happen. Could see it coming a mile away. We were standing right by the gate. Kalleward banged her head twice on the gate and then was 20 lengths behind. I thought, well, she's just done, and that's really unfortunate. You go to that. Latruska gets headed by search results, and it's like, yeah, she's not going to do it. So I still am alive to search results. But you know what happens when Latruska isn't the same and Kalleward doesn't fire and search results can't go a mile and an eighth? Malathaat wins. That's
It's not crazy beautiful. I'll tell you that much.
No.
And this is one of, I thought, I can't get Malathaat right. And it's very frustrating to see Malathaat win this race. And I loved Latruska in this spot. At the half mile, I was ready to count my money. When she put up that 48 half, I'm like, oh, this is going to be if she's anywhere close to the old Latruska, we'll talk about that in a second as well. This is going to be very, very, very tough for her to get beat. I thought search results ran a hell of a race. You mentioned Kalleward hit the gate twice at the start. This is a total line through it for Kalleward, right? We're not even worried about this one.
No, yeah, absolutely not. Yeah, I mean, we were talking to Slim. He was right at the winner's circle, and he's like, it looked bad from his vantage point. Yeah, draw a line through it. It's just something that happened. She acted up at the worst possible moment. Latruska, you're so right. She turned for home, and Jared had her pick, and I'm like, okay, it's time. If Latruska can't toss away search results again, who wants no part of this distance, then she's pretty much done. Look at this. I mean, she should win from here.
Yeah, right here you felt like, okay, this is over. I mean, search results can't get by. Malathaat doesn't like passing anybody. This should be done. And it's amazing to me that by the top of the stretch, she's already passed. You already know she's going to lose right here when she wasn't able to kind of open up like she had generally in the past. So pretty disappointing there from Latruska. We'll talk about her a little bit more. One thing you can notice with Malathaat is those blinkers are on. Yep. This was second-time blinkers. So a lot of their talk right after this race was the difference in Malathaat was the second-time blinkers. Now, she looked kind of awkward first time out in the blinkers. This time, she did look much more comfortable. Do you think that's the reason why she got by search results, or you think it's simply as everything went wrong for every other contender and she was able to take advantage of that?
Yeah, it has nothing to do with the blinkers. I hope everybody actually, yes, it did. Please better next time. Make her the favorite. No, here's what happened. It's very simple. The horse that was better than her, that we know were better than her, didn't run a step. Latruska isn't the same. Search results wants a mile or mile 16th at the most. You notice the last eighth of a mile, nobody fired that was better than Malathaat, and Malathaat could run down search results because she's not a mile and an eighth horse. That's all that really happened in that race. So, I mean, listen, you still have to give her credit. She had to fire. She had to run a race. I am against Malathaat no matter where she shows up next. I don't think she's that good. I'm really pissed she won the race. I thought it was absolute special circumstances to a T for her. Again, I give her credit. She'd have to fire. She'd have to show a little heart and go past search results. If search results wants a mile and an eighth, I don't see any way she gets past her. She just doesn't. She's just not that type of horse.
Do you think that Pratt sent search results a little bit early? I know a couple people in the chat mentioned they thought Pratt might have pushed the button too soon, and that's why he ended up getting caught late there. You think he could have held out a little bit more?
No.
Yep, I'm with you. I agree on that front. All right, now let's talk a little bit about how the numbers came back from this race. Actually, real quick, if Nest had run in this race, would Nest been your winner?
By 5, yeah.
Okay, so I just wanted to check that. So you believe Nest will also be your favorite in the distaff?
I think she'll be a very short price, yes.
Okay. Now, based off of that, do you know what a career high buyer is?
I do.
What's Nest's career high buyer?
104, I think.
Do you know what this race came back at?
I do, but tell me anyway.
This was the one that caused me to start really looking at everything for the weekend. Malathaat gets a 105, search results gets a 104, and Latruska, finishing third, ties her second or third highest career buyer and ties the number she got for winning this race last year with a 101. Do those seem high to you, Aaron?
I mean, at this point, if you look at these numbers and you're taking them serious, I don't really know what to tell you. The glaring one again, the first place finisher, it is what it is, right? They ran well. You can make a case. Latruska at a 101 is insanity. Zandon at what he was in the Travers is insanity. It's crazy. They did not run that well. Latruska run a 101. She quit running at the top of the stretch, for God's sakes. I mean, the only reason she finished third is because Crazy Beautiful was behind her, and Kalleward who knows what was wrong with her, So these numbers are incredible.
So we have 2 dirt races we've covered. We have, in those 2 dirt races, it was 11 horses have run. 8 of the 11 have set a new career high buyer. And we have a 101 for Latruska as another one of those horses. So just keep that in mind kind of as we go through these dirt races. Again, I think a lot of these numbers are inflated, specifically horses that ran second or third on the dirt. And we'll talk more about that here shortly, because we're going to have some more discussion on some dirt races as we go one race forward now and head into the H. Allen Jerkens. This one was all about Jack Christopher, and it was nice to see a superstar deliver in this spot. Happy to see Jack Christopher get back to 1 turn as well, because that clearly was a huge difference here.
Yeah, absolutely. He was fun. He's a really fun horse. I like one that is super, super predictable and dependable, and that's what he is to a T. This horse gets the same spot each time he runs. Second, a length off, give me a target. No more than 2. Between a length and 2 lengths off, give him a target. He does it every time. He outbroke everybody here, and I looked here and I said, oh, shit, he's going to be on the lead today. I don't want that. Coninger, who didn't break well, rushes up. I said, race is over. He'll just stalk him and go right by. This is a really, really nice horse.
I love these type of horses that can make their own trip, and you hit the nail on the head there. He could have easily gone to the lead. He's like, nope, I'm just going to let Coninger go, because I know if he goes, he's going to be gassed by the time we get into the lane, because you see the 22 flat opening quarter. He actually went 21-3 after that poor break to be able to get that type of lead. And Jack Christopher just gets to sit comfortably, sit right outside, and get this perfect stalking position. And when he stalks, he is so deadly. And he was able to do it at 2 turns, I thought was really impressive as well. Obviously, couldn't quite handle the distance in the Haskell. But when you get him at 1 turn, I mean, he is just filthy. What do you do with him?
Hey, listen, even that Haskell, he ran the same race. He just flattened because he couldn't get it. What do you do with him? I think you take him to the sprint, because the sprint is usually won by a horse that has this running style, or at least comes from out of it. And I wouldn't take him 2 turns again. I know it's a mile and a shorter race. I wouldn't run him 2 turns. I'd keep him in these 1-turn races. I'd take him to the sprint. By the way, Gunite ran a fantastic race. He really tried his heart out to get him. He's just not quite as good as Jack Christopher.
A monster effort from Gunite, who loves Saratoga, by the way. This is one of those horses where I'm going to be a little concerned when he leaves the comfortable confines of the spa, because all 4 of his best career efforts have now been over this Saratoga track, and he just hasn't been able to quite bring it anywhere else. I think it's going to be interesting if we go sprint or mile here. He's the heavy favorite in the mile. Who else is running in the mile that could get him? And you face Jackie's Warrior, and you're going to face, we'll talk a little about Laurel Park in a second here too. You're going to face some very good horses in the sprint. The mile, year after year, is awful. And it seems like he would be 2 to 5, 3 to 5 if he decided to go to the mile, much like Life Was Good was last year.
Yeah, you're right. I do think he would be a pretty short price, and it is a mile, and he's proven he could get that. But I would just be worried about that second turn. I'm not sure. I know that it's the same distance, but man, that configuration is a huge difference, a 1-turn mile versus a 2. And I would be a little nervous. Plus, it's a little bit more prestigious to run in a race like the sprint versus the dirt mile. It's not, that dirt mile's not taken quite as serious. So I get it. I think either spot he's going to have a great shot. And again, the thing why I picked him in the Haskell is because, boy, he can just turn it off when he wants to. And I thought, even if that pedigree isn't there, he'll be able to finish strong, and he didn't do it in the Haskell. So, maybe a 2-turn mile will be okay. I'm kind of rambling because I just really like this horse, but I think either spot he's going to have a big shot.
I would love to see him in the sprint. I agree with you. His style fits the sprint perfectly. You don't want to be on the lead. You saw what happened last year to Jackie's Warrior when you're on the lead. We look back at horses that have won this in the last few years. They've all, obviously Aloha came from the clouds to win after that thing fell apart for him. You had horses that want to be sitting mid-pack and make that move, and Jack Christopher just makes that trip for himself every single time. And I think he's better at 6 than he is at 7 or a mile. He's been great in the 1-turn 7 and mile races, but I think he's even better at 6 furlongs. Gunite runs huge out of this. Gunite a sprint candidate as well?
I think so. I think that would be a good spot for him as well. He makes a lot of sense there. And listen, he almost won his 3rd in a row here. He won a race at Churchill where he had to fight and he had to win. He fought off a horse last time out, or 2 races back, the Amsterdam. He was making up ground in this race. If this was a mile, maybe it gets close, So yeah, I think Gunite is definitely a candidate for the sprint or the mile, one or the other.
And we're going to take a quick look at the the incremental pace here, just so we can look at that last quarter of a mile there for Jack Christopher. 12.71. Gunite came home in 12.5. So Jack Christopher was a little bit faster in that last final furlong and catching up. A final time here, and this is important to remember, of 121.51 for the final time. What did you think? So I want to talk about a couple of horses here before we look at the overall buyer figures. Conagher, I thought pretty good effort. Kind of after that break, didn't really have a chance. I kind of like Conagher coming back if he's in the right spot. Do you have any interest in Conagher betting off this effort?
Yeah, I do. I thought both the horses that were coming out of the Iowa Festival of Racing just kind of got unfortunate trips, and he was definitely one. I thought he would break if he broke clean, and he would get to the lead, and he would be hang on and kind of be tough to pass. But you're right. You made a really good point. Forget about the opening quarter. After he stumbled, they had to rush him, and he was really flying that opening quarter. And I don't think once they rushed him up and he had to rush inside of horses, I don't really think they were able to get him to relax. I think he was just going as fast as he could the whole time. And I think that really killed him in the spot.
Yeah, if you break better against a weaker group, I think he is really, really dangerous. And then Accretive, the other horse I think we got to talk a little bit about here. I was really disappointed in this effort. This was one of two Chad Brown horses that was very lightly raced on the day at 3. The other that we didn't talk much about in the Travers. But I thought Accretive was going to sit a really nice trip here. Was beat Gunite, or lost by a nose to Gunite last time out, and just didn't fire at all. Were you surprised by the effort from Accretive?
I was. I very much was. I was with you. I thought he could run 3rd or 4th, and he just didn't fire at all, like you said. And I thought Actuator was kind of sneaky to get up and hit the board as well, and he didn't do anything. So really past the – I mean, you give Running Son of a Gun some credit. He kind of picked up some pieces there. But past those top 2, I don't think you saw a lot of the other main challengers really fire with much of an effort.
Yeah, not that it would have really mattered too much as well as those two horses did end up firing. We'll take a quick look at the buyers. This one doesn't jump out to you as much as the others. Conagher and Accretive both take steps back in 4th or 5th. Jack Christopher gets a 104. Gunite gets a 102. That Gunite buyers just remind me a lot of the Asmussen horse right now. You saw it with Epicenter as well, that just slow build up to these kind of big efforts. And you're seeing that slow build up from Gunite, him getting progressively better each start. So I'm excited to see what he does here in the back half of the year.
Yeah. He's fun. He's a fun horse. And, he's lost twice this year. Once was to Conagher, and Conagher just ran away from him. And it was Gunite's first start off of a long layoff since a 2-year-old, obviously. And then here to Jack Christopher. So even the races he's lost, it's been pretty darn good horses. I'm excited for him too. You made a point. He might just love Saratoga. Yes, he did win at Churchill earlier in the year, but these Saratoga races have been wildly better than where we've seen him elsewhere.
Yeah, he's now 3 for 4 with 1 second at Saratoga. 3 of his 4 career high buyers have come at. 4 of his 5 career high buyers have come at Saratoga. That's winning the Saratoga Special, or coming second in Saratoga Special, winning the Hopeful, winning the Amsterdam. So it'll be interesting to see if he's able to replicate that success elsewhere. Before we jump on here, if they both show up for the sprint, who's your favorite, Jack Christopher or Jackie's Warrior?
I think Jackie's Warrior is still the favorite.
You think? Yeah, I would expect that Jackie's Warrior would be the favorite. I would probably be more likely to bet Jack Christopher off of those efforts. We'll talk about Jackie's Warrior in a second here. Got a lot of people talking about the Breeders' Cup Mile. Cyberknife one that I wouldn't be shocked if Cyberknife ends up in the Breeders' Cup Mile, not the Classic off that effort. Art Collector's another one talking about going to the mile. Papa Cap going to the mile. Cody's Wish, who we'll talk about in a second here, possibly going to the mile. Do you think the mile actually shapes up to be a little bit more difficult this year than we've seen in the past?
Yeah, I think some of these horses that everybody's talking about would make it difficult. I actually did a Dirt Mile top 5 video. Magic will have it up on the website either late today or tomorrow. So, yeah, you go check that out. And a lot of the horses that are being talked about, I mentioned on that video.
I love it. Now, remember, Jack Christopher, 121.15 seconds in winning that race. We're going to jump to the 5th race now, where Cody's Wish able to pull off the upset here in the Forego and get the job done over the aforementioned Jackie's Warrior. I went 3 deep and didn't use Cody's Wish and felt quite stupid here not to end up on this horse to have coverage against Jackie's Warrior, because I thought you might see a little bit of a stumble here. What did you think about Jackie's Warrior? Did he just kind of need one? Why did we get this effort today?
Yeah, lots to unpack with this one. Do you remember when he ran in the Vanderbilt and there was a horse that went out and kind of set a hot pace and he sat off and he absolutely dominated. And we all were in our group text message because that's what you need to do with him. Kind of give him the Jack Christopher trip, right? That's what you got to do with this horse. Wow, he was wildly impressive. Well, they sent him, and I don't have any problem with him going to the lead, but I don't know. I just feel like when you feel Pipeline on your outside like that, and it's like clear that this 15-1 shot is there to kind of press you. I don't know. Maybe try to slow it down. Maybe try to let him go out a little bit. I don't think there's any doubt. Pipeline just kind of cooked him. I thought at the top of the stretch when he put Pipeline away, I thought, man, this is a gutty horse. This guy has had this horse breathe down his neck. He put him away. And Cody's Wish kind of did a Keen Ice from 2015 Travers and just kind of took advantage of it. And all credit to Cody's Wish, ran a great race. I thought Jackie's Warrior ran fantastic. Like I didn't look at it and go, oh, he needed one or he struggled. He just kind of got pressed. And for whatever reason, we just let this 15-1 shot kind of beat him in this spot.
And you look where Cody's Wish came from, too. I mean, just way out of the clouds. And it looked like right here, the Pipeline was actually the real threat. And then you just started seeing Cody's Wish roll down the outside. And it was a question of whether or not Jackie's Warrior was going to be able to hold them off. And the answer was just an emphatic no. They end up going 22-4 for the opening quarter, or 22.75. The race we just saw went 22.18, which again pushes me toward Coninger. Ran wildly fast early and still did run pretty well to be able to hang on where he was. Cody's Wish gets it done here. Now, this was an interesting spot to send Cody's Wish to. Do you think Cody's Wish ends up in the sprint, or does Cody's Wish use this and go to the mile where he's probably a little bit better of a fit?
I think he fits a mile. And you're going to remember, this was 7 furlongs. If this was 6 furlongs, he may not have won, right? I think he needed that extra furlong to get by him. So I think the mile does make the most sense for him, even though, this is usually a step towards the Breeders' Cup Sprint, like you said. Yeah, I just, I give him all the credit in the world because he had to fire huge. It's not like they were walking home. It's not like Jackie's Warrior. Again, I thought he ran really well. Even after the race, before we saw the data, Jared and I were talking, we had a huge Jackie's Warrior, Cody's Wish, straight exacta. And while it was upsetting, I said, look, he took it to Pipeline. Pipeline took it to him every step. He dusted him. He galloped away from him. It's just like, that's what happens. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm not down on Jackie's Warrior after this one. I think just the circumstances. And I think more than anything, learn from this. He ran 2 races up there. You saw that he could stalk in the Vanderbilt and dominate. You saw what happens when he goes to the lead and he has pressure. Yeah, he put that horse away, but he got beat. Stalk the pace. We talked about how Jackie's Warrior, or Jack Christopher, has the great running style for the sprint. It's hard to take the sprint gate to wire. Put him off the pace for the Breeders' Cup. Hopefully they learn going forward.
What happened last year at the Breeders' Cup?
Same shit.
He went and he got cooked. And that's why you saw the absolute collapse in that race. And Aloha West able to get his nose down against Dr. Scheibel. And Jackie's Warrior ends up running 6th he was the best horse in that race. It just the circumstances of it cost him the race. You mentioned it. He was able to stalk 2 back. I don't know why you didn't stalk here again. Maybe it's because it was 7 furlongs, that extra furlong you chose not to. But I would have definitely tried to let Pipeline clear and then sit outside of him and go and see if that could have made the difference here, because you're the best horse in this spot. The way you lose is you get cooked early. It's exactly what happened here with Jackie's Warrior. Now, I want to take a look at the incremental pace, or the elapsed pace here. Remember, 121.15 was the final time for Jack Christopher. Jackie's Warrior gets a 121.16, so a literally 100th of a second slower. Now let's jump to those buyer figures. Jack Christopher got a 104. Jackie's Warrior comes back with a second career high 109 buyer. So 5 points higher, even though running second in a slower race. It's because of the final furlong time that buyer came back. That's one of the big factors when calculating a buyer. What do you think about the 109 number and the 112 from Cody's Wish?
Well, I guess explain to me how that's possible mathematically. Can you?
Well, so the buyer's figures it's a formula that develops the numbers based on the final time. But one of the largest factors is how fast a horse comes home, which is why, like time form, it's nice because the number is developed based off of the early pace and the late pace, whereas buyers are just the late pace in the final time. So if your last furlong is faster, in this case, Jackie's Warrior's final furlong was faster than Jack Christopher's, he got a higher buyer even though the overall time was slow because the time of the winner was so fast. So because his personal time does not be taken to as much of effect because of the time of the winner, it's one of those flaws in this system where and it's one of the reasons I like buyers. If you know how they get made, you know where the weaknesses are, and you know when you can kind of go against them the next time. And to me, 112 is wild for Cody's Wish. 109 seems crazy for Jackie's Warrior. 105 seems high for Pipeline. I think all three of them, but I probably am not going to fade Jackie's Warrior next time out. The other two, I think, are good shots at fading if they come back at short prices because of this inflated number.
I feel like with buyers, I'll make a golf reference for people maybe to kind of understand where I'm coming from. I feel like with buyers, if you're still using them as like your only source or your main source, and again, this is not a knock on any buyer. I mean, revolutionized the game, and any figure that's been made past him has been a product of him, and they've just replicated the system and then improved it where they thought they improved it. It's not a knock on this person. And buyers are great. They're much better than what they had in the old days. But if this is your main source, kind of like going to the golf course with wooden shafts instead of the new graphite or steel shafts, like I really feel like that's kind of they're dated, right? They don't make any sense. This doesn't make any sense to me. You rambled all that off, and I'm like, I don't even. Huh? I just, that's just the way I look at it. I just think they're a little bit dated, and there's been improvements from other numbers that are all, again, a derivative of buyers. But yeah, I mean, the bottom line is I can't see a world where Cody's Wish improved 10 buyer points here. I just can't see it.
It seems kind of wild that you saw that big of a jump. And if you go to time form, which I know it's something that you like, the career high for Cody's Wish coming into this was a 126. He was right around that number from a time form perspective. So not a 10-point buyer jump. And the 126 was off that 104. So time form had these races much more informed than buyers did, which I think we both have talked about in the past. You do see some discrepancies there. And generally when there is, I would lean more toward the time form being correct because it takes early pace into account, not just the late pace. So I would say, again, and the reason why we're harping on buyers specifically on the dirt at Saratoga is because all of them came back high. Every one of them. Even if you flip into like some of these other races, the allowance races, you had multiple horses setting their career high buyers in $50,000 starter allowance races. The dirt, for some reason, came back high from a buyer perspective on Saturday. And it means that a lot of these horses got numbers that are inflated that they will not be able to run back to, especially the ones that finished third, fourth, fifth, places like that.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to bet these horses back, you need to look at other buyers minus what you just saw, right? What this most recent one was. Like, we're not saying Cody's Wish will not win next out. We're saying if you get into a race and let's say they all have like 102s, 103s right around in there, but Cody's Wish has this one standout of 112, you're like, oh, well, they can't beat him. That's not necessarily going to be the case. You need to remember this day, this was pretty wacky.
Well, and you also have to remember that this is the number one number looked at by the betting public. There's more money gets bet off buyers than any other piece of information. And so that means that the horses that have these outlier buyers are going to get bet more off of those numbers. And that will create value on the other horses. It's, again, one of the reasons why we're trying to harp on specifically the buyer numbers here coming back from Saratoga's dirt course on Saturday. Let's go one race earlier, close this out. The Boston Spa, mile and 16th on the turf, grade 2. Technical analysis was your star here for Chad Brown. What did you think of technical analysis effort?
I feel like, she just got the trip. She got the trip you needed. You needed her to get out to the lead. On paper, it certainly looked like she was going to get out to the lead. She did, and she just held on. I didn't think she ran just tremendous. Top of the stretch, I thought, okay, this is going to probably be a 4 or 5 length win. We were standing about, for that race, 200 yards, let's say, from the finish line. Fluffy Socks was starting to really cut into it. Thank God, technical analysis, they gave her a couple whips on right-handed, and she really kind of took off again and kind of got enough separation to hold on. I wasn't wildly impressed with this. I'm really not interested in betting many of these horses back next out unless the spots are just, pretty weak.
I would say that these are a bunch of grade 2 and grade 3 animals. And if you see any of them in grade 1s, you probably should take a pause, right?
Yeah, I think that's the best way to put it for sure.
So we'll see where they end up. Obviously, Brown, a ton of horses coming out of this. I thought Fluffy Socks actually ran pretty well to be able to make a move into the pace as well, sitting pretty far back around the first turn. So that was a pretty good effort there. We got one more weekend here at Saratoga. Let's take a look ahead. We've got one more weekend at Del Mar as well. We've got the Pacific Classic coming up. Is the Pacific Classic the race you're most excited about this weekend?
I think it has to be. I mean, we've been ranking Flightline number one. We've been saying Flightline's the number one classic contender, but it's one of those awkward things where he's never been further than a mile. So it's like we're gonna know this weekend what we're gonna do with him moving forward. He's one of those weird ones. If he loses this race, he might fall all the way out of the rankings completely because he probably would not even target the Breeders' Cup Classic. He would target a race we talked about earlier, the Dirt Mile, and he'd be 1-9. So yeah, it's very exciting to kind of. We'll know that piece of the puzzle after this weekend. And it's not like it's going to be a cakewalk because he's going to have to face Country Grammar, a horse that won the Dubai World Cup at 1.25 miles. So it's a pretty stiff test for him in this spot, not to mention Bob Baffert is the trainer of Country Grammar. So, yeah, it's what I'm looking forward to the most. We do have the Jockey Club Gold Cup as well as Saratoga, and that should be a decent race as well.
I always love the hopeful at Saratoga too. Closing day, you get that on Monday. It's the last 2-year-old, the first 2-year-old Grade 1 race, I believe, and 2-year-old males going. It's 7 furlongs there at Saratoga. Generally, you get some pretty good horses coming out of it. Jack Christopher and Witt, both in there last year. Gunite was in it last year. I'm sorry, it was Jack Christopher and Witt 2 years ago. So you get a lot of fun horses coming out of those races. So we'll see what we get at Saratoga this year for the hopeful. It's always been one of my favorites ever since City Zip dead heated it in an absolute downpour when they had to move the post time forward and everyone ran under the grandstand. That's one of those Saratoga memories I won't ever forget. We got a busy week here at Racing Dudes. Let's talk a little bit about that. It is opening week for college football. We had week 0 last week, and one of the more bonehead moments from Nebraska's head coach, kicking an onside kick up 11. That seemed a little outlandish, especially when you're overseas facing a Northwestern team than you're better. So we're excited to have college football back. We've got Dudes Who Bet Sports coming back, Aaron. When are you and Papa Dude going to be breaking down week 1?
So we're going to break down week 1 on Wednesday night. So look for Dudes Who Bet Sports on Wednesday night. And then next week, we'll go back to our Monday, Thursday schedule that we keep throughout the football season. So Wednesday night, we're going to break down week 1. We'll be back with reactions on Monday, and then we'll break down all the action for week 2 on Thursday. And we'll kind of just go through like that. I got to be honest. I'm not looking forward to college football season now. Here's why. My lock of the year was Northwestern plus 13. I have nowhere to go but down now after that.
You also gave up your lock of the year already. You can't have another one.
I know. I had little doubt that Northwestern would cover the spread. Little doubt. And I was following on my phone at Saratoga, and I'm like, wow, maybe I was wrong because when Nebraska got up 11, and then it's like, again, I'm following on my phone. I'm at the Travers. I'm not watching these two terrible teams, Northwestern and Nebraska, at the Travers.
Play in Ireland.
Yeah, in Ireland. And so Nebraska kicks off, and I'm like, wow, they must return that kick. They've got it past midfield already. That's awesome. We'll get a quick score. I had no idea they'd kicked an onside kick there.
Yeah. Up 11, all the momentum in the world to decides to kick an onside kick. Probably would have worked if it was well executed, but there really was no reason to risk it. We're going to have Dudes Who Bet Daily coming at you every Wednesday through Sunday as well. Wrapped up last week, up $300. That's a 4th straight winning week on Dudes Who Bet. Dudes Who Bet Daily, up almost $3,000 now, 7 weeks into that show. That's pretty damn good as well, Aaron.
Yeah, we've done really well with that show. Well, Papa Dude, man, this guy's killing baseball right now. He's killing baseball. He doesn't listen. We have got to keep him away from football. We've got to convince him. You stick with baseball.
I don't think we'll be able to do it. I don't either. Once we get college football rolling, he's going to be picking a college football game every day. If he starts losing them, then we got to start like poking him here and get him to come on, MLB, get back to it, man.
Dude, he's so excited for college football too. Like he's texting me every day. I was like, "Look, dude, you got to stick with baseball. Like you're like 101 in your last 101 games."
So make sure to check out Dudes Who Bet Daily as well every day from Wednesday through Sunday at noon Eastern. Best bets from baseball, from football, Del Mar, Saratoga. We preview the Del Mar and Saratoga cards as well live at noon. It's about 15-20 minutes. It's a great way to kind of kick off your day, find out who our best bets are throughout the card. Magic Mike show will be back on Thursday. I'm guessing we're going to cover the Del Mar pick 4 because, we got to give Magic one Del Mar pick 4 in the entire time of the meet. It seems like the right thing to do. And then make sure you check out the racing on Monday as well. We've got a holiday weekend, which means we've got Saratoga and Del Mar running on Monday. We'll have some great cards there as well. Aaron, anything else you want to throw out there before we sign off?
Yeah, I just want to shout out to all the people we met during this Saratoga meet, especially this last weekend. It was just insane. We met Jesse and Jalen and Dennis and Vicky and all her crew. And I mean, we could just go on and on and on. All the people we met. it's unbelievable that you guys are watching. We appreciate every single one of you. I was like, we're just lucky people that we've been working at this long enough. We've attracted this kind of audience, and everybody's just loving the content for YouTube. I mean, last year we really started dedicating that, going to YouTube and getting these videos out, and I think it's really helped people find us and people watching. So just incredible to meet everybody all year at Saratoga, and like I said, especially on the Travers. And shout out to Kelly Von Hemel and the crew for bringing 8 Live Grand up. It's not what they wanted to finish 7th, but they beat the Preakness winner. So, that's good. And they were excited. They said, look, we finished like 4 or 5 links out of 2nd in the Travers with an Iowa bred. How are we going to be upset? They were classy. They did not criticize a ride like I did, but it happens. But anyway, just thank you, everybody. It really means a lot that we got to, meet everybody. And it was a great time up at Saratoga again.
Yeah, it's been phenomenal to see just the reaction when you're going around to tracks from the last year or so. And even last year, I remember at Breeders' Cup, when we were walking around, the number of people that came up and say hi was very flattering. It's great to meet everybody. And it's really cool to see some fans hanging out with other fans now, that we have people that kind of have meetups and gotten together. I mean, seeing Shadi and up in Seattle and seeing her with I can't remember her name right now for some reason. But anyway, seeing the fans together, Vicky, we've seen Vicky and Shadi together. It's pretty amazing when they're going up there. One more thing coming up this week. I didn't even mention it. We got Kentucky Downs on Thursday, Aaron. Are you excited? Are you a pro or con Kentucky Downs person?
Con. I hate Kentucky Downs.
I thought you might. Why do you hate Kentucky Downs?
I never do any good there. So you tend to hate someplace where you have trouble hitting tickets.
I guess that's fair. I love, it's so unique. One thing I'm going to say, don't get frustrated with Kentucky Downs cameras. And don't get frustrated with Kentucky Downs photo finishes. Last year, there was something like the photo finish is so skewed to the inside horse. You have no clue who actually finishes first across the wire until you see that photo. So don't get too ahead of yourself. And man, it feels like they're 4 stretch cameras when they're coming down the lane, because it just cuts from one to the other, to the other, to the other. And then the race finally ends.
Well, let me be clear. And I know you're saying you love Kentucky Downs. I have no problem like watching it, and I know like going to that track is amazing and all this kind of stuff. I'm saying I hate it because I can't cash a ticket. That's what I'm telling you. There's no hate for Kentucky Downs. I mean, I like it. It's kind of a cool thing. I just can't cash a ticket there. And that's why I hate it.
The beauty of, you do cash one, you're probably good. That's the nice part about Kentucky Downs. It's a boutique 6-day meet. You've got 12, 13 horse fields, left, right, and center. Some of the biggest purses in the country. If you have the chance to go, I highly would recommend it. Aaron and I did our top 5 favorite small tracks. Kentucky Downs made my list. I bet it would have made Aaron's if he had been there before. So he's got to get his ass out to Kentucky Downs at some point. You can literally tailgate right up against the rail. It's an absolute blast to go. They're really unique European style tracks. So that'll be starting this week as well. I know we'll have the bombs up for it. I bet the Rockets in the premium picks will be there as well. So you can check out picks over there at racingdudes.com if you'd like. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us here on the Magic Mike Show. I know Magic was bummed that he could not gush about Epicenter for 45 minutes, but we had Aaron here, got to talk through the races. Aaron, appreciate you jumping on. We will see everybody back here on Wednesday for Dudes Who Bet Daily. You've got Dudes Who Bet Sports on Wednesday. We're going to have the Magic Mike Show and Blinkers Off back on Thursday, so make sure you stick with us here. Good luck, everybody. We'll see you at the track.
Week in racing, it's time to recap it. And who better to do it than Michael New Magic? 2 bros/pros who cover the highs and lows of racing around the globe on every one of their shows. Real fans look forward to these guys and their last stunts, cause they know they're not talking out of their royal ascot. What they say makes sense. So ladies and gents, sit back and relax as Blinkers Off presents the Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by racingdudes.com.